Hello BookTube. For the third tag I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to be doing the Meet the Sci-Fi Reader tag or the Get to Know the Sci-Fi Reader tag. It seems to be going around as both. I first saw this tag on Literature Science Alliance, and I saw it a few hours ago on Sean D. Standfast. So I'll link both down below. Question number 1. What is your sci-fi origin story? I would say it was probably Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's the first sort of unambiguously science fiction thing I ever saw or encountered. As far as books are concerned, I want to say it was maybe Ender's Game. I think that's the first one No, it's Frankenstein. Because I read Frankenstein in 4th grade. And Frankenstein is early science fiction. So it was Frankenstein. Because I don't know what the circumstances were. But I ended up checking out, because my 4th grade teacher had like a shelf of books that I guess were maybe a bit more advanced than what would be found in the school library. And she let me check out Frankenstein. And I read it over the course of maybe a few classes or something. Not entirely sure if I enjoyed it though, but yeah, it was Frankenstein. Number 2. If you could be the hero or heroine of a sci-fi novel, who would be the author and what's one trope you'd insist be in the story? I think I would like to be in a Catherine M. Valenti novel. I'm almost tempted to say Yoon Ha Lee, but no. So far, the Hexarchate. I would not want to live in the Hexarchate for anything at all. Oh, or Ian M. Banks. Ian M. Banks or Catherine M. Valenti. And the one archetype or story thing, really need to come up with a better, because obviously trope's not what actually it describes, even though language evolving it is now. But I would want, let's see here. Well, I would insist on no bearing your gaze. No bearing your gaze in the book would be what I would insist on. I know it's not including it, but hey. Number 3. What is a sci-fi you've read this year that you want more people to read? I think I would like more people to read Ian M. Banks' work. Particularly consider Phoebus, which I think is actually the only science fiction novel I've read this year. Well, I've read like a space opera by Catherine M. Valenti, but I didn't particularly like it. I'm still bailing off on it. But I would say probably consider Phoebus. I've had a terrible year with science fiction, honestly, which is incredibly frustrating. Number 4. What is your favorite sci-fi subgenre? What subgenre have you not read much from? So my favorite subgenre is space opera. I love space opera. I would like to read more cyberpunk. And I'm not really all that fond of sort of mundane science fiction. So I don't really particularly want to read a whole lot of that. Number 5. Who is one of your auto-buy sci-fi authors? Catherine and Valenti, definitely. Yoon-Ha Lee. Arcady Martin. So yeah, so I might actually like Arcady Martin to do the writing too for that. I think that's about it at the moment. I personally tend to prefer fantasy over science fiction, so fantasy writers will tend to be my auto-buys rather than science fiction, even though, science fiction and fantasy tend to, have the same pool of authors. They kind of go back and forth. Okay. Number 6. How do you typically find sci-fi recommendations? Thomas of SFF 180. He is your go-to for all things science fiction and fantasy and horror. Number 7. What is an upcoming sci-fi release you're excited for? The sequel to A Desolation Called Peace, I think is what the title is, by Arcady Martin. It's the second book in her debut science fiction series. And number 8. What is one misconception about science fiction you would like to lay to rest? That it's not for everyone. That only a limited number of readers or fans can enjoy it and engage in the community. That the science fiction, fantasy sort of fan community is a far more eclectic, diverse place than popular culture would want you to believe it is. Number 9. If someone had never read a sci-fi before and asked you to recommend the first 3 books that come to mind as places to start, what would those recommendations be? Now here I think I'm kind of going to agree with Steve Donahue that obviously I would like to get to know the person, what they like, what they don't like, before I recommend anything, because something I really enjoy, they might hate. So, there's always that problem. But I think I would probably recommend an anthology collection first. Probably something edited by David G. Hartwell, the space opera Renaissance, one of the hard science fiction books he did, or maybe the Locust anthology. Probably Ender's Game. Something by Ursula K. Le Guin. Dune, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Because I love Dune, but it is a bit of an acquired taste. Maybe something by... I think Leviathan Wakes might be a good option, or something by Alistair Reynolds, or Neuromancer, I think might be a good option too. I know that's way more than 4, or 3, but obviously that's a very individualistic sort of recommending to a specific person, and Yeah, because I mean, there's a whole slew, and then you kind of narrow it down. Number 10. Who is the most recent sci-fi reading content creator you came across that you'd like to shout out? I'm not entirely sure what the point of this one is. So I guess I'm going to just shout out everybody who enjoys science fiction and fantasy, and you're also on BookTube. You're shouted out. And if you would like to do this tag and you haven't already, please consider yourselves tagged. So that was the third of 3 tags I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. I'm a bit tagged out and exhausted, so I'm going to go ahead and upload these and go do some other things. And I will see you tomorrow with weekly reads. Spoiler alert, so far it has been glorious. Absolutely glorious. And I will enthuse about that tomorrow. So until then, BookTube, thank you. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe, and if you are so able, please vote. Unless you've already voted, in which case, don't. But if you haven't already voted, please vote. Thank you, BookTube.